to make a lot of people look in this direction and see that like this is a viable thing. Because at this point, I'll do this, and then July 14th, I'll end up at St. John's, and then I'll have to come back to Victoria after a couple of weeks. And if there's not some sort of significant movement in a few other provinces as far as legal proceedings, that the only recourse at that point is I can't content myself with living in a world with those unreasonable rules, and so I'll go and get arrested again, and essentially, dramatically say, "Oh, I'll start to death in jail before I'll ever comply with this law."
Huh? And you must know like exactly what they say, and like to be arrested over 40 times, like you just must know the entire process. Like
there's so many variables. Like the sheriffs in the courthouse know what's going on more than the judges do. Like they're always chatty with me, and like I know all the guards at the prison, and interesting, in jail I get a lot of respect. Like at first I was concerned that they were going to condemn me as some wishy-washy hippie protester, but I was getting like real respect. Like the alpha males were coming up to me and shaking my hand and saying, "I really appreciate what you're doing here." And it's like, now because of you I can sleep outside at night without worrying about getting jacked by the cops.
Well, it's freedom, right? Like how you're saying, we walk along the paths, and I was doing the Solidarity March for the students here in Calgary, and at the end of it we all kind of split off and did our discussion groups, and as we're walking into one of the parks, a couple of us walked on the grass, and the commissioners were like, "Get off the grass!" Like, like they put it in place when it's deemed, I don't know, is whenever you step off that path, right? Like the parks are there, and then there's a pathway through the park. But once you actually utilize a park for the freedoms that it is, then it's, they jump in.
Yeah.
You're constantly being pushed, and then you don't even question it, right? Like you don't question this stuff. That's why it's awesome that you raise this kind of this point. Like it's true. Like people don't know they have that right, and they just kind of they're scared of it.
Really, it's the most intimidating thing, because to acknowledge it means everything in your world is about to turn upside down. So many things, like the controlling factor. Like we don't even need to go into the history of Canada and what the reason people think they own the land and what horrors happened for people to be in that mindset. And at the same time, you can't hate people because they were all born into it. Like myself, I come from Red Deer. I'm at one point was an average Joe, and so that I like the fact that it's not about hippie protesters anymore. I like that. I really like Texans. It's like those are our rights. Don't mess with our rights.
Yeah.
And so I can.
They can at least know it, right? A lot of people in Canada, they're never tested on it, right? Like you show up every 4 years to vote, and that is, your involvement, your participation. But then when we challenge it, like tuition hikes and when they tore up the tents and occupied, then it starts to be like, can they do that? Like when you do start to exercise your rights, and with the law 78 coming in, and they're trying to limit the protests and all that kind of stuff, like until it actually gets challenged out of your normal day-to-day thing, like you don't know about it.
Yeah, well, and it becomes interesting because the Crown again is the boss of the judicial system. Like the judges are picked by the Crown. The judges would like to pretend that they're a separate entity, like what's the word?
Independent.
Independent. That's one word. There's a fancier one that I don't quite recall. But the Crown. We are a constitutional monarchy. That every politician, every soldier, every cop, every lawyer with the Bar Association, the British Attorneys Registry, has essentially swears an allegiance to the Crown. And so you will rarely find lawyers looking at the Crown as
defendant?
A roadblock or a defendant. Like legally, the Crown can do no wrong.
Mm,
It's
okay.
written down, like, you can't sue the crown. And so that makes it really interesting, because if you want to correct the crown, then you have to have a hard-on meditation, because you have to be a peer of the crown. Essentially, you have to represent what the crown really would do in that situation to correct it.
So do they uphold the constitutions, or you're saying they don't?
Oh, they don't.
They don't.
No, the crown, it has the best spin doctors in the world. That they'll spin it. And it's interesting, the difference between Canada and the US, because in Canada the crown is very jealous about its power. In Canada you won't find any local chief of polices that are sort of, shady with any sort of mafia family or like anything like that, because every chief of police is first okayed by the crown. That's where the phrase "mum's the word" comes from. Like for corrupt people, it's like, we'll do this horrible act and it's between you, me, and the crown. It's like "mum's the word."
Oh.
Yeah, if the crown says it's okay, we can get away with it.
That's like the end all be all, like the crown is
Yeah.
what says goes. So like in court systems, like you want to get to that?
Well, that's ultimately what you're challenging. Like, you challenge in provincial court, and then you challenge in provincial Supreme Court, and then you challenge in the appeals court of the province. And then you go to the Supreme Court of Canada, and then you go to the appeals court of Canada. And if you lose with the appeals court of Canada, that's when you know the only viable option to get justice at that point is revolution.
That's like 6, 7.
Yeah, that's like 20 years.
Really?
Yeah.
And that's that many steps.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and each one, they'll play it the whole way. Like, for instance, if someone in Calgary wanted to challenge this, but they were unsure of their lawyering skills, and so they wanted to go the more simple route of just getting arrested and defending themselves,
Yeah.
they'll get arrested, and then they'll sign conditions to abide by until the time of the trial, and then the trial will happen, and then they'll schedule the trial 3 months away, 4 months away, when it really could be like a week away if they wanted to get on it. And then they can do anything at that point. They can, the lawyer got sick. Like that happened with us. It's like the lawyer got sick and we had to wait another 2 weeks.
So in those terms of conditions, are they pretty harsh, or like?
Generally they're specific to whatever you got arrested for. And so
where do you sleep during that time?
Well, exactly. If you're going to agree to the conditions, then you have to find a way.
Not get caught, basically. Right?
Or not get caught, yeah.
Then you would be in jail.
Exactly. And arrested on a separate charge as well of a breach. Which, incidentally, is probably how more than 50% of all the people that are in jail right now are generally for simple things, like they got arrested for drinking once and they got a condition not to drink, and then they breached it and they went back to jail and got a longer sentence, and then they breached it.
Oh wow.
Like there are people doing 6 months for drinking in public.
Like that was their first initial.
Yeah, and then they breached it like 4 or 5 times, and then suddenly they're in jail for like half a year.
Oh jeez.
Yeah. Think about that. The thing with lawyers is they worship the notion of having an alternative argument. Like if this argument loses, then we have this argument, which is a little less than that argument, and so we're prepared in case we lose. But in this case, the alternative argument is starving to death in jail. It's like you're going to do the right thing, or this is the consequence. Like there's no compromise at a certain point. Like I will not content myself with literally being a slave to a massive world-destroying delusion.
Based on good arguments and definitions of our time and all this kind of stuff, like by judges and like how they define discretion, how you're saying, like it really kind of hinges on your expert witnesses.
Yeah.
Just based on that, like what if you didn't have them? And
well,
essentially, if someone's going to do this, they have to dedicate their lives to it. They have to become friends with Google. That it can be done, and the legal arguments are there. And you have to gain a monk-like appreciation of patience. Because at the same time, you can't hate the people that are doing this, because they're as much conditioned as anyone else is. Like the whole, I like to think I'm not religious, but the whole forgive them for they know not what they do thing. And because also one of the things they do is push buttons, because once you're angry at them, you're off your center. And essentially, if you're angry, you're wrong. And so like anger can never be a viable argument. And so their job is to make you angry, and your job is to rather be dead than angry.